I've always found solace in the familiar, the predictable. My name is Clara, and for the past 30 years, I've been married to George, a man whose routine is as steady as the heartbeat of our small town. Our lives are a tapestry of ordinary moments, woven together by the threads of daily habits. I work at the Bean Scene, a cafe where the scent of brewing coffee and the soft murmur of conversations create a comforting backdrop to my days. Linda, the owner, with her gentle spirit, has made this place feel like a second home to me. The cafe, with its warm wooden tables and mismatched chairs, has been my sanctuary for 5 years now. But one evening, as the sun painted the sky in hues of orange and pink, something unusual happened. The cafe was empty, the last customer had left, and I was alone, wiping down the tables, when the bell above the door chimed. It wasn't the front door, though. It was the back door, creaking open with a sound that seemed almost out of place in the quiet. Standing there were 2 young men, both in their late 20s, with an air of confidence that seemed to fill the room. They introduced themselves as Tom and Alex, plumbers sent to fix the kitchen sink that had been leaking for weeks. Their smiles were easy, their movements casual, and as they stepped inside, their tools clinked softly in their belts. I let them in, watching as they moved with a certain grace, their presence bringing a new kind of energy to the space. They got to work immediately, their hands moving with practiced ease under the sink, their conversation light but focused. As I watched them, I couldn't help but wonder. The sound of wrenching pipes and the occasional curse word from the kitchen made me smile as I continued my cleaning. The cafe was my sanctuary, a place where I could lose myself in the mundane yet satisfying tasks. As the night deepened, the plumbers finished their work, and I offered them coffee as a thank you. We sat at a corner table, the only light coming from the soft glow of the cafe's vintage lamps. Tom, with his rugged charm, told stories of his travels, while Alex, quieter but with a sharp wit, shared tales of his misadventures in plumbing. The conversation flowed easily, laughter punctuating the silence of the night. As we talked, I felt a warmth that wasn't just from the coffee. It was the kind of warmth that comes from unexpected company, from feeling seen and appreciated in a way that had become rare in my daily life with George. But then the conversation took a turn. Tom leaned in, his voice lowering. "You know, Clara, you've got this place all to yourself at night. Ever get lonely?" His eyes held a playful challenge, and I felt a flutter in my stomach, a mix of excitement and caution. Alex chuckled. "Tom here thinks every woman needs a bit of excitement in her life." He glanced at me, his gaze lingering a moment too long, making the air between us charged with an unspoken tension. I took a sip of my coffee, feeling the heat rise to my cheeks. "Well, sometimes yes," I admitted, my voice barely above a whisper, "but excitement isn't always what it's cracked up to be." Tom's smile widened. "Maybe not, but sometimes the night deepened, and the cafe felt like a world of its own, separate from the reality outside. As we shared another round of coffee, the atmosphere shifted subtly. Tom, with a playful glint in his eye, complimented my smile, saying it was the brightest thing in the room. Alex, not to be outdone, mentioned how my laughter was infectious. Then, in a moment that felt both surreal and exhilarating, Tom leaned in, his lips brushing against my neck in a gentle kiss. My breath caught. My heart raced. Alex, seeing my reaction, placed his arm around my waist, his touch both comforting and daring. The line between friendly banter and something more intimate blurred. I knew I should pull away, should remember George at home, but the thrill of the moment, the attention, the touch, it was intoxicating. I felt a shiver run down my spine as Tom's lips lingered, sending a wave of warmth through me. Alex's hand on my waist tightened slightly, his thumb tracing small circles, igniting a spark that I hadn't felt in years. The cafe, with its dim lights and the soft hum of the espresso machine, seemed to cocoon us in this moment of forbidden desire. My mind was a whirlwind of thoughts. George, with his predictable routines, his steady love, was miles away, both physically and emotionally. Here, in this moment, I was someone else, someone who could be swept away by the charm of these two men who saw me, really saw me, in a way that had become rare. I leaned back slightly, my eyes meeting Tom's, then Alex's. There was an unspoken question in their gaze, a silent invitation to explore this unexpected connection. My heart pounded in my chest, each beat a reminder of the life I had built, the vows I had made. Yet the allure of the unknown, the thrill of breaking away from the mundane, was overwhelming. I took a deep breath, the scent of coffee mingling with the subtle hint of Tom's cologne, grounding me momentarily. This is not what I expected when I came to work tonight," I managed to say, my voice a mix of excitement and trepidation. Tom chuckled softly. The cafe was silent except for our breathing, the world outside forgotten. My mind was a whirlwind of emotions, guilt, excitement, fear, and an undeniable desire. Tom's kiss deepened, his hand now on my cheek, while Alex's arm tightened around me, his breath warm against my ear. I could feel the weight of my wedding ring, the symbol of my commitment to George, yet here I was, caught in a moment that felt like a dream. My heart was pounding, not just from the physical closeness, but from the realization of what I was contemplating. In that moment, I felt like I was standing at the edge of a precipice, the thrill of the unknown pulling me forward, while the safety of my known life tugged me back. Tom's touch was gentle, yet insistent, his lips moving from my neck to my lips, a kiss that was both a question and an invitation. Alex's hand slid from my waist to the small of my back, drawing me closer, his touch igniting a fire within me that I hadn't known was still there. The air was thick with the scent of coffee and the subtle, intoxicating fragrance of their colognes. My senses were overwhelmed, my usual self-control slipping away like sand through my fingers. I knew I should stop, should remember my vows, my life with George. But the allure of this forbidden dance was too strong. The cafe, with its dim lights and the soft hum of the espresso machine, seemed to cocoon us in this moment of desire. Tom's voice was a whisper against my lips. "Clara, let go for just a moment. Feel this. Feel us." His words were like a spell, and I found myself leaning into him, my hands finding their way to his shoulders. Alex's lips brushed against my ear, his breath hot. "You deserve to feel alive, Clara. We can give you that." His words sent a shiver down my spine, a mix of fear and longing. I was caught between two worlds, the familiar comfort of my life with George and the wild, exhilarating unknown with these two men. My heart was a battleground, each beat a drum of conflict. I pulled back, my breath hitching as I felt the weight of my decision. In that dimly lit cafe, with the scent of coffee still lingering in the air, I made a choice. I turned to Tom, meeting his lips with mine, a kiss that was both a surrender and a rebellion. Alex's hand slid down my back, pulling me closer, his touch igniting a fire I hadn't felt in years. The world outside ceased to exist. There was only the cafe, the three of us, and the forbidden thrill of the moment. It was a night of passion, of breaking the chains of routine, of feeling alive in a way that was both terrifying and exhilarating. Tom's kiss was deep, his hands exploring the contours of my face, while Alex's touch was electric, his fingers tracing patterns that sent shivers through my body. I was lost in the moment, the thrill of the unknown, the allure of breaking away from the mundane. The cafe, with its dim lights and the soft hum of the espresso machine, cocooned us in this bubble of desire. Every touch, every whisper, was a note in a symphony of forbidden pleasure. We moved together, a dance of intimacy that felt like a dream, a fantasy I had never dared to entertain. As the night deepened, our connection grew, each moment more intense than the last. I was caught in a whirlwind of emotions, the thrill of the forbidden, the guilt of my vows, and the undeniable desire that surged through me. Tom's voice was a whisper against my skin. "Clara, let go for just a moment. Feel this, feel us." His words were like a spell, and I found myself leaning into him, my hands finding their way to his shoulders, pulling him closer. Alex's breath was hot against my ear, his words a promise. "You deserve to feel alive, Clara. We can give you that." His touch was both comforting and daring, igniting a spark that I hadn't known was still there. I was standing at the edge of a precipice, the thrill of the unknown pulling me forward while the safety of my known life tugged me back. But in that moment, I chose. As dawn crept through the windows, the reality of what had happened settled like dust. Tom and Alex left with promises of silence, their departure as quiet as their arrival. I was left alone in the cafe, the scene of my indiscretion, with the weight of my actions heavy on my heart. The night had been a whirlwind, a departure from my predictable life, and now, in the cold light of morning, it felt like a dream, or perhaps a nightmare. I locked up the cafe, my hands trembling slightly as I turned the key. The familiar scent of coffee now seemed tainted with the memory of their touch, their whispers, their laughter. The silence was deafening, a stark contrast to the symphony of emotions that had played out just hours before. Back at home, George was still asleep, unaware of the storm that had passed through his wife's life. I slipped into bed beside him, the guilt and confusion swirling within me. The cafe would open again, life would resume its predictable pace, but something had irrevocably changed within me. Lying there, staring at the ceiling, I felt the weight of my secret like a stone in my chest. George's steady breathing was a reminder of the life we had built together, a life of comfort, routine, and love. Yet the thrill of the night, the forbidden dance with Tom and Alex, had ignited something within me, a spark of desire that I hadn't known was still there. I wondered about the future, about my marriage, about the secret I now held. Would I tell George? Could I bear the weight of this alone? The thought of confessing felt like a betrayal, not just of him, but of the life we had crafted together. Yet the silence felt like a lie, a growing chasm between us. As the morning light grew stronger, I turned to look at George, his face peaceful in sleep. He was my rock, my constant. But now I felt like I was drifting away, pulled by the tide of my own desires. The cafe, once my sanctuary, had become the stage for my betrayal. What will Clara do with her secret? The question echoed in my mind, a relentless drumbeat. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment if you enjoyed this story. This will help us create more engaging stories for you.